Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Brady. I'm here with my colleague, Sil Ray, a breaking news reporter out of New Delhi, who's been covering the race to rescue the passengers on this submersible vessel near the Titanic. Sil, nice to see you. And tell us about who is on this vessel.
There were 5 people on board the vessel, and for now, the two people that we definitely know about, one of them is Mr. Hamish Harding. He's a British businessman, and he's based out of Dubai, and kind of a very well-known adventurer.
Mm-hmm.
Alongside him, there was a father and son from Pakistan, a famous business family, the Daoud family, and along with them, there was a French maritime expert, Mr. Paul Henry Naroulet. So yeah, so there's just 4 people that we know about.
Well, one thing that has gotten a lot of attention, of course, is Hamish Harding. You know, he's a billionaire. A lot of people describe him as a British explorer. Tell us more about, first of all, where did he make his money?
So it's interesting. So he owns he owns this sort of private equity group called Action Group, based out of Dubai. And one of the key sort of businesses that they operate is Action Aviation, which is an aircraft leasing and sort of sales company based out of there. But he's also someone that appears to come from like tremendous amount of wealth, family wealth as well. He There's an interview back in 2001 when he worked in India, actually, when he talked about his links to Lord Curzon, who was a part of the British Empire's sort of viceroy here in India. So long family history, and but in more recent times, he appears to be sort of the money has been made from Action Aviation, which is an aircraft leasing and sort of selling firm based out of Dubai.
So, yeah, it's interesting you say that he's from a almost nobility background, because he has that almost old school British explorer way about him. I've read about, I think he's broken 16, air records in terms of air travel records. Tell us what some of the other things that he's done prior to this voyage.
So he's done a bunch of different things. So just on the Guinness Book of World Records, he has 3 records on paper. One is he's the person has the fastest time when it's flying around the Earth over both poles. So he's a pilot himself. He's an aviator. So that is one of his sort of more cherished records that he talks about quite a bit. But other than that, this is not his first rodeo when it comes to actually deep sea diving. He has 2 records in the deepest part of the ocean, in the Mariana Trench. One is the longest distance traversed there and the longest time spent there, which he achieved like a few years ago. So he's someone that has kind of had the streak of adventure for a long time. Interestingly, he's also part of 2 records to the South Pole that he himself isn't involved in. But like Buzz Aldrin was the oldest person to go to the South Pole, and he accompanied him. And his son, which his website claims to be the youngest person to go to the South Pole,
At 12, right?
12, right. And obviously, he was also part of the Blue Origin launch, the 5th crewed mission for the Blue Origin rocket.
Right. I think he was the first Briton to basically break the barrier into space. I mean, the people that you mentioned, obviously all very wealthy. What is the cost of going on this kind of trip?
So this particular trip, if you're sort of a tourist, it costs about $250,000 a person, and you have 5 tries essentially throughout a period of time where you can go and dive. And again, like one successful try is all that you get out of that. So yeah, so it's an expensive journey to go on. You have 5 people on board this craft. Yeah.
And it also seems like a journey that often is aborted at the last minute. From what I've seen, I've been watching this David Pogue video that has gone viral, essentially. This is a reporter who went last year. Is it perilous conditions down there? I mean, it must be very hard to stage a rescue.
Exactly. So, I mean, he himself, in the last post he made on social media, on Instagram, he talks about how basically this is probably going to be the only mission to the Titanic wreck this year, because the weather in Newfoundland, that area, has been so harsh. So yeah, it's a very, very perilous mission in its own. Submarines are just not designed to go that deep, so there has to be a very special purpose vehicle built for that. And there's there's always the risk of getting snagged or stuck somewhere, and rescue from there becomes incredibly difficult.
Now, I know there's been a lot of attention to Mr. Harding. What do you know about, you mentioned the Pakistani father and son. Where did they get their wealth?
So they are part of a pretty prominent sort of Pakistani sort of family. They run this corporation called the Engro Corporation. It's a big textile sort of business based out of Pakistan, and Shehzada Dawood, sort of, who's sort of one of the people missing, is based in Britain, and he's one of the wealthiest people sort of from Pakistan, and yeah, it's mostly like a textile business background.
So, Sil, the fourth member is, I believe, Paul Henry Najole is his name. What do we know about him?
So he's a French maritime expert. He's not one of the tourists, from what I understand. He's one of the experts, so to speak, who's sort of accompanying the mission. And he's sort of done research on the Titanic wreck before. So that's about as much as we know about him right now. But yeah, he's not, unlike the other people who went down there, he's not necessarily a tourist. He's not a first timer who's doing this.
And I suppose we shall await for updates. I know that time is of the essence, but thank you for joining us and, are sending good karma their way.